Well, stories have been written, and stories have been told, and stories have been finished. And I guess everyone's finishing their story. Well, I guess unless if you're Cody Rhodes. But in the case of the 2023 NFL season, many stories have been finished in week 18 of the 2023 season. And, well, the real fun begins this coming week with the playoffs. Playoffs? Playoffs, pal. But before we get into the playoffs, we have to talk about the week that was the final week of the regular season. And that, of course, was week 18. And that all started with the Saturday doubleheader, as in the soaking wet rain of Baltimore, running back Najee Harris and receiver Deontay Johnson dealt the scoring as the Steelers did their job against the Ravens B squad. And, well, they took care of their business, beat the Ravens 17-10. And, well, now they need to wait. They need to hope and pray for some help the next day from the Tennessee Titans, who were playing the Jacksonville Jaguars the next day, to know of their playoff fate. Then in the nightcap, it was a back-and-forth affair in Indianapolis that saw C.J. Stroud lead a good go-ahead touchdown drive, and the Colts had an opportunity to win the game. But unfortunately, Colts receiver Ty Goodson dropped a wide-open fourth down catch, and the Texans outlasted the Colts to claim their spot in the playoffs. The Colts are gone, and maybe, just maybe, they would get even more help the next day as well. The Texans outlasted the Colts 23-19 in a pretty good playoff feel kind of game. So now we get into the Sunday slate of game, the final regular season Sunday of the 2023 season. As in the early morning portion, starting off with that, despite Baker Mayfield's shaky play, Chase McLaughlin's 3 field goals were just good enough to wrap up the NFC South for the Bucs, who beat the Carolina Panthers 9-0. Yep. That's how the Panthers season ended. Another shutout for the second straight week. Meanwhile, Jake Browning and Joe Mixon's multi-touchdown showing ended the Bengals season on a high note after being eliminated the week prior, and made history for the AFC North, as all teams ended the season with a winning record, as the Bengals beat the Browns 31-14. Jared Goff and the Lions starting offense jumped to a 20-6 lead that Nick Mullins and the Vikings, who still had kind of something to play for, were nearly erased that in the fourth quarter before 2 late interceptions by Mullins sealed the deal for the Vikings. Very small playoff hopes, as the Lions beat the Vikings 30-20. Now, in the snowy storm of New England, don't let the score fool you, because it was a sloppy and snowy affair that saw bad play between the Jets and the Patriots, that saw Breece Hall scored the only touchdown of the game in the last 2 minutes to finally snap the Jets' 15-game losing streak over Bill Belichick and the Patriots 17-3. And who knows if this is going to be the final game for Bill Belichick in the Patriot way. Down in NOLA, it was a close game at halftime, but then the Saints decided to run up the scoreboard, pal, because the Falcons are just that bad, even in the last minute or so. So much so that Falcons coach Arthur Smith got so heated at Dennis Allen. He was telling me, "Why the fuck are you scoring a touchdown there, pal?" And he got fired hours later as the Saints beat the Falcons 48-17. But it didn't really all that matter that much because, well, both teams were eliminated from playoff contention because of the Bucs winning the NFC South. Meanwhile, down in Tennessee, the Titans defense swarmed Trevor Lawrence with 2 interceptions and several fourth down stops, forcing a lot of mistakes on Trevor Lawrence, including the last one to eliminate the Jaguars from playoff contention and give the Texans a big gift in the form of the AFC South and the Bills and the Steelers playoff spots, as the Titans provided the upset of the day over the Jacksonville Jaguars 28-20. Going to the afternoon slate of games, down in the desert, Geno Smith's late touchdown and 2-point conversion to Tyler Lockett gave the Seahawks the lead back, but they needed a prayer. That was answered in the form of a missed Matt Prater field goal that could have won it for Arizona, but didn't, as Seattle held serve over the Cardinals 21-20. Now they needed some help from the Bears, but unfortunately they would not get that help because the Packers defense put Justin Fields' legs on ice, as Jordan Love's 2 touchdowns elevated the Packers to the final NFC playoff spot in a win over the Bears 17-9. Meanwhile, down in Los Angeles, the backup battle between Blaine Gabbert and Ethan Stick. How exciting! Saw the Chiefs get the late win off of a Harrison Butker go-ahead field goal with under a minute left, 13-12. Receiver Jacoby Myers for the Raiders notched a rushing and receiving touchdown apiece. The Raiders put on one last good audition for owner Mark Davis to consider Antonio Pierce to be their long-term head coach. But we will see. Apparently, the top name of the list for Mark Davis is Michigan coach Jim Harbaugh, who now is a national champion. Congratulations to Jim Harbaugh. So my well wishes, my congrats to Jim Harbaugh and that Michigan Wolverine team. Recently crowned national champions of college football. But as for this, the Raiders beat the Broncos 27-14. And then another big upset because the Giants got some Christmas payback on the Philadelphia Eagles. They silenced Jalen Hurts and the offense while the trio of Tyrod, Saquon, Darius Slayton completely dismembered the Eagles defense as the Giants closed out their season with a nice win over Philadelphia, that broken Eagles team, 27-10. That definitely helped out the Cowboys too, because the trio of Tony Pollard, Rico Dowell, that rushing trio, and receiver CeeDee Lamb went ham on the tanking Commanders as the Cowboys easily disposed of them and sealed up the NFC East easily in the NFC number 2 seed, 38-10 in a win over the Commanders. And then in the last afternoon game, we had Carson Wentz leading a long and quick drive back-to-back in the second half to score 14 unanswered points for the LA Rams as the Rams secured the 6th seed in a win over the 49ers, 21-20. And then in the final Sunday night game of the regular season, Josh Allen and the Bills overcame a litany of first half mistakes to pump the brakes on Tua Tagovailoa and the Dolphins as safety Taylor Rapp sealed the game and the Bills' 4th straight AFC East title with an interception on Tua's last chance throw as the Bills beat the Dolphins 21-14. So that was your week 18. That was the final week of the 2023 NFL season. Some twists, some turns, some stories finished. Unless if you're Cody Rhodes. But kind of crazy to believe what transpired in the final week. But hey, that's what's the final week is for, pal. So before we get into the final wrap up of our regular season coverage, let's get into my final winners and losers of our weekly winners and losers. I'm not sure what else to say. But anyway, my final winners, the Houston Texans, I think, after a year of them being deservedly roasted, after former head coach Lovie Smith effed over the team, after he well knew that he was going to get fired, and he decided to, I'm going to say, fuck you. You're in position to win, to get the number 1 overall pick. Well, fuck you guys. Since you're going to fire me anyway, I'm going to say, screw you. We're going to get the number 2 overall pick, and Carolina's going to get number 1. So a year after, ironically, they faced the Colts in Indianapolis in a battle of the tank, D'Amico Ryans comes in, and they still get the guy that they wanted in CJ Stroud and really turned the team around. There's still room for growth, obviously. There's still a couple of key areas that they have to address. But I feel like CJ Stroud has been a revelation for the team. Like, he has really caught the league by storm. The team has rallied around both him and their head coach. And, regardless of whatever happens next week in that wild card game against the Browns, the Texans should be really proud and hopeful for their future, just as long as the ownership, the front office doesn't fuck things up. But they should continue to build upon it. I mean, there's definitely a far cry from where they were just like 5 to 4 years prior with all the Deshaun Watson drama. And then you have the Buffalo Bills. In spite of all the high frequency of turnovers and all the mistakes, Josh Allen, the Bills, they still managed to overcome all that, complete a turnaround from potentially missing the playoffs a month ago. And now here you are reclaiming the AFC East in the last month with just enough big plays made and coming together to string 6 straight wins. So yeah, kudos to the Bills. But now here's the important thing for them. you got to figure out how to prevent those mistakes from becoming a common thing, because now it's the playoffs. It's one or done. It's like your season is basically on the line. It's a new season, but except don't get eliminated. So they got to find a way to severely limit, or better yet, completely stop Josh Allen from stopping these self-inflicted turnovers that could end the Bills' season in a hurry. So anyway, the Bills get at least one home playoff game, that being against the Steelers. And if they survive, they get another. So at least the Bills, they completed a little bit of a turnaround. Now, as for my final two losers of the regular season, the Jacksonville Jaguars. Man, talk about an all-elite meltdown in Jacksonville. Maybe they got a little bit the high of being all in back in January, and then they decided to go to London to get the all-in feel with Tony Khan, C-O-N, and they had a little all-in fall-in backstage, and then, well, from being at the midway point at 6-2 and being talked about as one of the AFC contenders, I think I personally also talked about that as well. And then you go 3-6. You have a losing record the rest of the way. That's because, the flaws that I talked about before the season started, especially on the offensive line, not really addressing that well. And then in the secondary, your passing defense was really suspect. But perhaps one of the biggest of all is your quarterback, Trevor Lawrence. Injuries did definitely had a part in all of that. But his inability to rally the team together, and it's kind of like Josh Allen too, stop making the mistakes in crunch time, and especially during down the stretch, that losing stretch to close out the season. So the Jaguars have some serious soul searching to do during the offseason, during these next 7 months or so. So talk about ouch, man. Like, you had a firm grip on the AFC South, and then poof, it's gone because you let it slip away. And then the Philadelphia Eagles. It's already bad enough that they were undergoing a bad month-long stretch that began early in December when they lost bad to the 49ers, and they lost bad to the Cowboys. And then you still had an opportunity to win the division because of this supposedly easy schedule with the Giants, the Cardinals, and then the Giants again. But then you decide to proceed to fuck that up. You proceed to screw the pooch. The exclamation point being the choke job to Arizona to end 2023. But then you go and outdo yourselves by ringing in 2024 and ending the regular season by not even showing up to play in the first half against a Giants team that, is not going to be in the playoffs. But hell, maybe they're not. It sounds a little far-fetched, but maybe they're not as down in the dumps as we think there are. So the Eagles, they were in a must-win season finale with one last chance to try and win the NFC East, and held out a large amount of hope from the Commanders. But damn, they didn't even show up at all. Like, they didn't even show up to play. And what's even worse for them now is the growing list of injuries from that game. A.J. Brown left the game with a knee injury. Guard Cam Jurgens left the game. Safety Sidney Jones is out for the season with a torn ACL. So the MetLife curse continues. And then quarterback Jalen Hurts also left the game with a dislocated finger, although he seems like he's going to be okay to go for next week's game. That's now going to be on the road, pal, because, they are going from the 1 seed down to the 5th seed in just a year amount's time. So, coupled with all these issues right now, along with issues that they already had all season long, picking Baker Mayfield and the Bucs to get some payback on the Eagles next Monday night, shouldn't be out of the question any longer. So, if you're the Eagles right now, it's very, very rough pickings right now. Oof. So let's look at the playoff field. The real fun begins. We've already finished the story with the regular season. Now it's it's our Christmas. It's an NFL fans' Christmas, and that is the playoffs. We get to embellish in it, we get to relish it, and then once it's all over, we get to cry that it's over. So anyway, let's look at the playoff field as it's set to begin with Super Wildcard Weekend. Of course, the first round byes go to the Baltimore Ravens and the San Francisco 49ers. So it all begins with the Cleveland Browns visiting the Houston Texans in a rematch of Week 16. And then the Miami Dolphins and the Kansas City Chiefs face each other in a rematch from that Germany game. But it's exclusively streamed on Peacock. Fuck that shit. So anyway, and on Sunday, you have the Pittsburgh Steelers visiting the Buffalo Bills in the early game. And in the afternoon game, you have the Green Bay Packers facing the Dallas Cowboys in the afternoon game, like I said. And then in the big night game, this is going to be a fun one. Matthew Stafford returns to Detroit, as this time as a member of the LA Rams, taking on Jared Goff, who's now a member of the Detroit Lions. Both quarterbacks facing each other, now on different teams, part of that big 2021 trade that swapped quarterbacks. Gonna be a fun Sunday night game, and a game that really matters most. And then you have the Monday night nightcap, a rematch of week number 3 in a Monday night game. The Eagles taking on the Bucks, a chance for the Bucks to get some revenge, coming in with a little bit of momentum. The Eagles getting the wrong kind of momentum right now. So, should be an interesting kind of super wild card, ultra wild card. Look at this fucking wild card weekend. So, should be fun. And as always, like for the third year in a row, we're going to be previewing it, talking about it in the most filthy casual way possible on the podcast coming up shortly. So, before we get out of here, I want to give you all one final takeaway from this week 18, and not just week 18, but the final takeaway from this entire 2023 season. And it's this. It is this. I guess it's just not like something like cliche or anything, but actually it is. I guess it's just always to remember that the NFL is a marathon. It's a marathon, not a sprint. So, like I said, all the way back in week 1, like don't overreact to what's happening with your team. Like, let's say they won big or won a close one, they're 1-0, or they lost big, or they lost a nail biter. It's not the end of the world. It's only the first week, so it's gonna keep going and going and going, and then by the time you get to December, you'll have a better idea of where your team is at. So remember this: the NFL is a marathon. It's a marathon of a weekly marathon of knowing where your team is going to be at by at most this at mid-December or end of December, what have you. So never take week 1 for granted, and yeah, just always remember that the NFL is a journey. Every NFL season is a different journey. Just remember that, pal. So, yeah, this 2023 season was actually fun. Better, kind of better than last season. A lot of twists and turns, especially this last week of the season. But the real fun begins when the playoffs start this Saturday. So, hope you all are excited. Even if you're not a football fan, it should be fun to watch the next month or so. So, like I said, we're going to enjoy it. We're going to relish in it. And then when it's all said and done, we're going to cry that it's over. And then we have to wait 7 long months until it comes back. It's just like that separation. But anyway, let me know your final thoughts on the 2023 regular season of the NFL in the comments below. And let me know your early thoughts on the first round of the NFL playoffs in the comments below as well. So anyway, that's my final recap of the 2023 NFL regular season. My final recap video for this season, regular season wise. Of course, I'll be doing playoff coverage all month long, so stay tuned for that on the podcast. So yeah, get ready, folks. It's the most wonderful time of the year. for the NFL fans, pal. So anyway, this is Dylan Lasagna signing out. And as always, keep that lasagna very cold in the fridge with your takes on the world of sports. And until the next one, peace out.